Every evening at exactly 7:30 p.m., Richard Hale sat at the same table in his five-star restaurant in Manhattan. Same seat, same glass of sparkling water, same silence. Richard Hale was not just rich. He was a self-made millionaire, a man whose name appeared in business magazines and financial podcasts. People admired his discipline, his success, and his cold focus. But very few knew one truth. Richard Hale ate alone, not because he wanted to, but because he had forgotten how to sit with another human being. That evening felt no different. Until he noticed the boy. The boy stood near the restaurant entrance, holding the door open for guests. He was thin, maybe 10 or 11 years old, wearing an oversized hoodie and worn-out sneakers. His hair was messy, his face clean but tired. He wasn't begging. He wasn't speaking. He was just watching. Richard frowned. He disliked distractions. "Manager," Richard said quietly, without looking up from his plate. "Yes, sir. Why is there a child at the entrance?" "He's been there for a few days," the manager replied nervously. "He helps open the door. We give him leftovers sometimes." Richard sighed. Charity was inefficient, he believed. Systems mattered, not emotions. "Make sure he doesn't bother the guests," Richard said. The manager nodded and walked away. Richard returned to his food. But somehow, his appetite was gone. A few minutes later, something unexpected happened. A glass slipped from a waiter's tray near Richard's table and shattered on the floor. The sound echoed through the restaurant. Conversations paused. Before anyone could react, the boy rushed in from the entrance. "I can clean it," the boy said quickly. The manager hesitated. Richard looked up. For the first time, their eyes met. The boy's eyes were not desperate. They were calm, almost familiar. "Let him," Richard said suddenly. The manager looked surprised but nodded. The boy knelt down carefully, picking up the broken glass with his bare hands, moving slowly, respectfully, as if this place mattered to him. When he finished, he stood up and smiled. "Thank you, sir," he said to Richard. Richard didn't respond, but something inside him shifted. After a moment, Richard did something he hadn't done in years. "Sit," he said, pointing to the empty chair across from him. The restaurant went silent. The boy froze. "Me?" "Yes," Richard said. "Sit." The boy hesitated, then slowly sat down, his feet barely touching the floor. "What's your name?" Richard asked. "Ethan," the boy replied. "Where are your parents?" "My mom passed away," Ethan said softly. "My dad left a long time ago." Richard nodded. He didn't say, "Sorry." He hated empty words. "Why are you here every night?" Richard asked. Ethan smiled gently. "Mom said it would be like this." Richard stiffened. "What do you mean?" "She said one day I'd stand in a place full of light," Ethan continued, "and I'd meet someone who forgot something important." The words hit Richard harder than any insult ever had. "Forgot what?" Richard asked quietly. Ethan looked at him and said the sentence that would change everything. "She said you'd forget kindness before money, but kindness would find you again." The restaurant noise returned slowly, but for Richard, the world had gone silent. Those words. They were the same words his mother used to say when he was a child. Richard's hands trembled slightly. "How did your mother know that?" he asked. Ethan shrugged. "She said people who build big things often lose small things first." Richard pushed his plate away. For the first time in 20 years, he couldn't eat. "Tell me about your mother," Richard said. Ethan's face lit up. "She worked 2 jobs," he said. "She was tired all the time, but she always smiled. She told me rich people aren't bad. Just busy forgetting who they were." Richard closed his eyes. His mother used to clean offices at night. She said the same thing. "Finish your dinner," Richard said suddenly. "I'll get in trouble," Ethan said nervously. "You're my guest," Richard replied. That night, Richard paid attention to the boy more than his phone, his emails, or his deals. And something terrifying happened. He felt human again. Before leaving, Richard handed Ethan a card. "Come tomorrow," he said. "Same time." Ethan nodded. "Mom said you'd say that." The next evening, Ethan returned. Then the next. And the next. Richard learned Ethan loved drawing buildings. He learned Ethan dreamed of becoming an architect. He learned Ethan never complained. Weeks passed. One night, Richard asked, "If your mother were here, what would she say to me?" Ethan smiled. "She'd say, don't save him with money. Save him with time." Richard didn't sleep that night. The following morning, Richard did something shocking. He cancelled all meetings, all calls, all plans. Instead, he went to the address Ethan had given him. A small shelter. That's where Ethan lived. Richard funded the shelter anonymously. He hired tutors. He paid for Ethan's education. But he never told Ethan. Years passed. Ethan grew taller, smarter, stronger. On Ethan's 18th birthday, Richard invited him to the restaurant. Same table, same time. Richard handed him a folder. Inside was a scholarship, a full ride, architecture school. Ethan's hands shook. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. Richard smiled, a real smile this time. "Because your mother was right," he said. "I forgot kindness, and you brought it back." Ethan stood up and hugged him. Richard didn't pull away. As Ethan left that night, he turned back. "Sir." "Yes." "Mom said one more thing." "What?" She said, "The richest men are saved by the poorest hearts." Richard watched him walk away. And for the first time in his life, he felt rich.